Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls around the world, this is the year of the takeover.
Absolutely. I'm excited.
Yeah. This is like the year to do some things. This is a doing year.
Go after it.
Go after it, yeah, exactly. This is the time to actually do something. And I'm really excited about the podcast today because we actually wanted to talk about Black History because it's Black History Month, the month of February.
We could do that in the church?
Well, we're not in the church, so I guess that doesn't matter. Wherever you're listening to this at, I think people always feel some type of way when you say Black History Month. Why Black History? Why not white history? Don't all history matters? You want to elaborate on that a little bit?
I mean,
I can tell you what I think.
I love to hear what you think. I want to go based on. I don't want me to go first because I don't trust myself.
Well, I just think at the end of the day, we don't really know Black history, and the factual thing about history in our country in America is that it has been washed out on purpose.
Absolutely.
So you had to start, it started off as Black History Week and just trying to bring awareness to, because, even I'm not that old, I'm older, but I'm not, that old, but I feel sorry even for people that are older than me, because even for me, the only people I knew about was, maybe Martin Luther King, which is the 60s.
Right.
And maybe George Washington Carver. That's probably about all I could give you. Harriet Tubman, maybe. And then that's about it. I did not know that Black Americans, African Americans, Black people were seriously a huge. I really don't think people understand how huge of a role Black Americans played in the building of this great nation.
Well, one of the things, and we could dive into it a little bit later, but one of the things that in preparation for this podcast specifically, I started looking into, a lot of people talk about Tulsa and Black Wall Street, but there were thriving communities across the country. Tulsa was just one of those communities. Yeah. And there's a lot of communities that people just don't know about.
Well, I don't even think so. So let's dive into it. So what is Tulsa a little bit? Is that Black Wall Street?
Tulsa was known as what they call Black Wall Street, but there's so many other communities that when you really dive into it, it's amazing. I mean, it makes you proud, and for me, it
I know what you're going to say. It makes you angry.
Try not to get angry. Yeah. But then at the same token, it makes you proud to know the rich history and rich heritage that we come from.
We did have that. For those who didn't know, so you had Black economic enforcing people that actually had a thriving community, their own banks, their own investors, all that kind of stuff. And if you go and do your research, you'll find out that they got raided, they got pillared, burned down, and they basically destroyed that community. And what, to your point, I believe you're making, is that happened a lot.
Yeah. So there's I'm looking it up, and there's Bronzeville in Chicago was a thriving community. Haiti in Durham, North Carolina. Sweet Auburn. Then you have the 9th Street in Little Rock. There's so many. Fair Street in Jackson, Mississippi. You have so many, and all of these communities were equivalent to what we know as Black Wall Street, where they had banks, schools, hospital systems. They had everything, and they were independently thriving Black cities that were covered up by what we know now as, I don't even know if they call it American history. I don't know what it was, but they were just covered up. They were.
So it makes you wonder sometimes when you look at the percentage of Blacks today in America and where we are as a people, where we are as a nation, when it comes to folks still being maybe on welfare, still being in the projects and on government assistance. I don't know what the stats are, but it's still not where it needs to be, and folks getting off that and folks not being dependent on that. And you go, how can that be the case that long ago? And we're still where we are as a nation. Well, I think that can happen when you erase the history of what was. If you don't know what people had to overcome to get to where they are, that can make you think sometimes that you're not capable of doing it.
Absolutely,
that it's not possible.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. I think the biggest thing is that when you talk about Black history and when you talk about the rich heritage, a lot of Black people, especially younger generation, think that it comes from, we started at slavery. It's like the beginning of our history in this country is slavery. And that's
not true.
That's so far from the truth.
Yeah.
And when you look at it, there's so many things that we can be proud of that says, hey, this is who you really are. And it makes you think different, because it's like, we're not the first doctor. We're not the first, like, we've done it. We've invented stuff.
Yeah.
We've been doctors. We've been lawyers. We've been professors. We've been all of these things.
It's not a stretch.
And it makes you think like, oh, this is possible.
Yeah.
And it makes you think different.
Well, I thought Bill Cosby, Dr. Huxtable, who was played by Bill Cosby and Felicia Rashad. That's the first doctor or whatever that a lot of Black Americans ever seen. But there is a man by the name of Benjamin Banneker. He was a self-taught mathematician and astronomer, assisted in surveying, designing the layout for the nation's capital in Washington, D.C., alongside Pierre L'Enfant. I hope I'm saying that name the right way. But like, if you took, I was saying before we were taping, if you took a drone and flew it over the Capitol, first off, you get shot. Drone would get shot down. That's the first thing that would happen. But if you were able to hypothetically do that, you would see that the city is strategically designed, mapped out to where the Capitol lines up with the monument lines up with the White House, and it's all strategically. A Black man was responsible for designing that. A Black man was designing for putting our Capitol together. So he was
an engineer.
He was an engineer.
Wow.
Absolutely. It's so important, and I can't find him. Let's see if I can find him here. There is the traffic light was invented by a Black man. Okay, so the red, green, yellow light, that's a Black American that did that. Black Americans fought in the Civil War. They were participants in the army. So the freedom that we have, the fact that we were able to be a United States of America, the 55 states that it is 55, isn't it? 53, whatever
50,
it is.
50,
51.
50.
Maybe this needs to be American history.
Because Puerto Rico's not a state yet, but 50.
I feel like you're really kind of trying to gloat here. And anyways, the point I'm making is if we don't know these things, then it is kind of hard, like you said, to feel like you can progress, you can accomplish some things, because you don't see people that look like you in these places. As a child, and this is something I want to say, it may get a little personal here, but as a child, I never thought that a Black man could be a president.
Wow.
It was not even on the radar as a youth that the possibility that you could make it all the way to the White House. I just assumed that would always be a white man. Okay.
Why is that? Why did you?
Because that's all I've seen. If you ask me who was the first president that I knew of, I would say Jimmy Carter was the first person in my brain that I recognized as a president. Then, if I remember correctly, after that was Reagan. After that was first old man Bush, then Clinton, and then his son, and then Obama. So this is prior to to Obama, all I saw was white men. We studied, we talk about not wanting to talk about Black history, but we studied white history, if you will, American history, because George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Roosevelt, all these men are white. So we don't have to say white history, because you don't say white history when you say, kind of just the generic American history. But I mean, it is white history because the people are white. Hey folks, Javen here. If you've been stuck, if you've been procrastinating, if you've been feeling like you don't know where your next season, your next breakthrough is going to come from, I want to challenge you right now. I got the answer for you. Do it now. Why wait when your best is now? My best-selling book. I want you to pick it up today. It's going to help you get unstuck and get going with this season of your life, because there's so many extraordinary things that are supposed to be taking place right now in your life, but sometimes we just need a little booster. At the end of every chapter, there's a workshop assignment that's going to help you begin to plan your day, plan your week, plan your year. This is your season of now. This is your season of yes, and it's time for you to do it now. Pick it up today.
No matter where you are in life, Do It Now is a must read. Get your copy of Do It Now and get some great nuggets of wisdom by award-winning recording artist, TV host, actor, producer, and author, Javen. Available anywhere books are sold. Why wait for better when your best is now?
Why is it that this country has done such like on purpose job of covering Black history? Why do you think that is?
I think it's racism. I think it's when you look at, so I was watching a show called Jamestown. It's actually loosely based on a factual city in Jamestown, Virginia.
I feel my face getting tight. I felt that anger coming.
Well, the Bible said get angry, but sin not. So it is what it is. But so I was watching this series, man. I like entertainment pieces that have an historical backing to it. So it's not a typical movie that y'all may like, but I like that kind of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So it makes me, when I see historical pieces, it makes me go online and start looking up and go to Wikipedia and all that. So I went and looked up Jamestown, and it was one of the first colonial cities in America. This is before we become a United States. This is the first city. And Jamestown, the series, starts where they first start bringing women over. The men are there. They set up. They've conquered. They're trying to woo the Indians and trying to get along and setting up alongside of them and whatnot. Now they're starting to send women over because they're trying to procreate and make it like a legitimate city and start families and all that kind of stuff. Women, by the way, could be bought back in those days. You bought a wife. Think about that for a second. Women were the last people to vote. So a Black man could vote before a woman. That's how much you women should really tune in when you start talking about stuff like this, because I promise you.
I didn't know that. Black men had the right to vote before women.
Oh, yeah. Women were the last human beings in America that had a right to vote. So when you start talking about women's rights and things like that, you're talking about people that are in power that are trying to marginalize or oppress other people. And I'm not saying that happened because they are white. I'm saying that if we have to be mindful that whoever is the majority and whoever has the power per se, or the more, we have to be mindful that we cannot dominate and not be considerate of other people. And you're seeing that going on now with immigration and all that kind of stuff. There has to be a compassion. I'm not talking about irresponsibility. The border does need to be checked. I do think it's a little bit going on. I don't want to get into that. But, that's what's going on. But to get back to answer your question. So Jamestown, I'm watching this series. I'm enjoying it. I'm telling people, hey, check it out. If you like series that read like a book, this is the type of series. We get to the end of the first season, and at the end of the first season, the way they closed it was the introduction of slavery. Black slaves. So prior to that, you had work, you had labor. They weren't called slaves. Maybe they were, I'm not sure, but they did work. So white people too were slaves, or they were workers that didn't get paid or got paid very little. Okay, so there was a hierarchy pecking system in Europe, and you could be white and out there in the fields. That's what was happening before they bring blacks over. The difference is, the whites that were there working in the fields, tobacco was the big thing. That's how it started, as far as the economy. The difference was when they brought the blacks over, they brought the blacks over in chains. They created chains to put black people in, African people in, and dehumanize them so that they would never be able to come out of, because you could, if you were white, you could buy yourself out of the slavery, the lower class. You could gain enough money for your family and buy your way out. If you were black, if you know your history, there was no way out until you get the Emancipation Proclamation, until you have the Civil War, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, it's all racism. It's racism.
So the thing is, I understand that's how the history began, and that's why it was covered up initially. Are you saying it's still like that now? Like, what? Okay, that was what it was. Mm-hmm. Why is it still being covered up? Why haven't they gone back and fixed it and said, hey, let's start talking about the real Black history. Let's talk about Central Park. Let's talk about Seneca Village. Let's talk about the community that was thriving under Central Park before it became Central Park. And we made it a park and said, you'll never build on this again, and we'll never talk about Seneca Village. And like, I never heard about these things as I was in school.
Yeah.
These are things that I heard about as I became an adult, and I started researching it.
Yeah.
So I get it was racism then. So is it still that prevalent now? Like, why is?
Yeah, I think without question, I'll answer the different way in just a second. But to your point, and let me say this for the record, this is not the response. I don't think Black history is a responsibility of white people either. Okay,
that's a good point.
Okay, so I think it started there because they had access to everything. Okay, the difference now is we have access to everything as well. If you're a Black person, okay, so if you're not teaching, if you're not reading, if you're not doing your own research, if you're not sharing this with your kids, and the only thing they know is Beyonce and Jay-Z and Jordan, that's your fault. You know what I mean? That's our fault. So it is not somebody's responsibility to teach us about us. So that's the first thing. All right. So
I want to say something, but I'm calculating the audience. So
well, keep calculating. When you feel the strength, come on. You have to take over. To answer your question about why is it still going on? Is it still going on? Whatnot? It's still going. It'd be the difference is if you and I grew up together and we're brothers or cousins. Everybody thinks Charlie's my son. He's not my son. But I'd be proud to have you as a son if you were. But if we grew up together, right? And I did something where I stole your money years ago, or I don't know, just kind of did something bad to your car or something years ago, and we never talked about it. We never brought it up, and you were never able to confront me about that, and I never owned up to that. You see, years later, there will still be a problem, don't you think? There would still be tension, don't you think? There would still be something that says something's not right here. And that's why I think that if we take real ownership of Black history without it being without all the racist people making all their little jokes and comments, and you'll see them on social media, and that'll show you the true test of our nation is don't look at what's being said on the media, look at the comments. Go up under the article. Look at what happens when, Obama becomes president, or when Black Lives Matter became a thing and all that kind of stuff. You'll see them all come out the closet then. Yeah. And you'll see them all making all these because you can't see their faces. They're not bold enough to say their faces. To be honest with you, I think the biggest gift Trump gave to the nation was racism. I think he told them it was okay to come out. It was okay to say certain things that were, up until him, was inappropriate to say. Up until him, as a sitting president, it was taboo for you as a white man to be saying some of the things that he started saying. And I think that whether you like him or don't like him, whether you vote Republican or Democrat, I could care less. But I will tell you this: you're not going to tell me he's any better than any other president before him. But the reason why he has the loyalty, like he has the iconic, almost seems like cultish following, is because he gave them the imprint or the green light to say it's okay for all of that closeted racist stuff you've been feeling to go ahead and put it on front. It's good. Remember what he said? It's good people on both sides. So when you see that, you've got to know that stuff is very, very prevalent. It is very, very much alive. So what do you do with that? I'm not going to say so as a Black person, you're supposed to get mad and hate all white people and everybody's racist. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is it's very much alive. It's very much evident. And if you're not careful, if you don't address some of this stuff, like I said, with the example of us going back to childhood, it never gets taken care of. And it's going to end up continuously causing a rift between the two.
But I love what you said, and I have to go back to it. And I think this is where we start, is not a white person's responsibility to educate us on Black history. And so we have to take more of an ownership and a responsibility to say, let me learn about my past. Let me learn about the royalty that I come from. Let me learn about inventors and engineers and presidents of companies. And, let me do my research to figure out everything that I'm dreaming about is possible.
Yeah.
And somebody that looked like me has already been there and done it. And so now I just need to follow the blueprint.
Well, Black people have to go beyond entertainment and sportsmanship.
Right.
let's keep it 100, and I'll take a hit for that, and I don't care. Y'all don't give me no money no way. The black people have to go beyond sports and entertainment, real talk, and we are in some ways. We have politicians, we do have businessmen and whatnot, but nowhere near the percentage that we should. Okay, and you are sitting here in Black History Month, and you have entertainers. Just start there, influencers that are going after one another in a way we've never seen. So you don't need an enemy to tear you down. We're doing that on our own. We think it's a joke. We think it's funny. If I got a book coming out, or because folks are trying to promote a movie, they get on podcasts and they go to ripping one another down. And trust me, the white people ain't paying y'all no attention. The black people are the ones that are jumping on board, amen in this stuff, going after this stuff, and we are entertained by going after the richest person, if they black, or the most famous person. And you go across the board. And I'm not saying some of them are not right or they're not guilty of whatever it is they're being accused of. But what I am saying is you have a lot of white people that in their community, they have the same thing, the most famous, the most richest and whatnot, that are accused of even worse. But you don't see them being ripped down in a way of how we go after one another. And that's something that I think we have to ask within ourselves. Are we our brother's keeper? Are we accountable to seeing our... That's one of the things you had back in the 60s and in the civil rights. You had a unification. There's nothing like hatred, there's nothing like oppression, something like oppression that causes people to unify. Yeah. You understand? If you want, one of the reasons why our church, I believe, staggered in some ways is because we started Now Church in Hollywood, Florida. Well, it ain't like you got gangs and poverty and, Skid Row in Hollywood, Florida. It's just kind of like a working class community. So because it's kind of working class, everybody's kind of, whatever. If, I don't understand why we have to have something dramatic like a George Floyd or whatever for us to get up and say we need to progress forward as a people and be a part of society. That all starts with, you're not going to like me for this, but that all starts with education.
Yeah.
My people perish for a lack of knowledge. So I saw a TikTok the other day where they said, well, Bank of America and, American Airlines and, several other companies now are not requiring college educations. They don't even need it. So, don't waste your time going to college. Black man telling his platform. So don't waste your time going to college. And all the black people in the comment was like, yeah, that's right, child. You ain't even got to worry about it. I lied on my resume and, this, that, and the other. And they were celebrating. And so now you have, and good and well, we have a generation of influencers, meaning these kids that are making a lot of money in a short period of time. Is that good? Yeah, that's good if you can make money that quick. The problem is y'all going to have money, but y'all going to be dumb.
Well, I was about to say, one of the things when you talk about entertainment, sports, influencers, they make a lot of money, but they don't have the financial acumen to know what to do so they can pass on that wealth. They make a lot of money today, and then by next year, they trying to figure out, what am I going to do next? And they working at the grocery store at the fast food spot.
I'll give you one better than that. Go to your top. Go to your professional athletes. If they're making $2 million, guess what the white man sitting up there in the booth is making?
Oh, he a billionaire. Yeah, he a billionaire. But
look at Jordan toes. You know what I'm saying? Look at LeBron's feet. Look at the many of operations that these athletes have to go through, right, in order to get their millions. Is the agent, does he have an operation? Did he tore his Achilles heel? Is his feet all mangled? You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. You when you really look at, and I'm not hating nobody, but I'm just painting a broad brush. And I know that maybe we have to do a part 2 to come back with somebody. But when you look at all of that, that just goes to tell you the reason why he's able to make. You don't get mad at him. You can't get mad at him. Let's keep it 100. You cannot get mad at the guy up there. He invested. He went and got his license he studied the stock market. He got his education. He went forth. Now you got generational wealth going there in some of those situations. But my point is this: don't hate the player, hate the game. If you don't use
learn the game.
Learn the game.
Learn the game.
I like that. Don't hate the player, learn the game. That's your new saying.
That's
I like
it.
That.
Don't hate the player, learn the game. Because the thing is, we get so angry and upset about things that we can control.
That part.
We can control it. We can control the outcome. It doesn't matter how many people tell us no. It doesn't matter how many times is taken from you. We can control it if, going back to your point, we're educated and we learn the game.
And we knew the game. We knew the game and rejected the game. We have a lot of young men that don't want to finish high school right now. Okay, and it's an alarming rate. But you would not believe how much you would have thought by now we'd be at 70% graduations of high school young black men. I'm just going to deal with them because the girls are actually kicking butt in a lot of ways. But our men, you would have thought we would have, we wouldn't still be the highest number in percentage wise in jails and in crime and all that kind of stuff because we would have started playing, quote unquote, the game of the corporate of education of what it means to thrive in this society and whatnot based upon our parents' days. My dad built his own house. Your family, you come from a very well-to-do black family. A lot of us come from a lot of well-to-do working class. Our parents went to church, this and it wore suits and hats and was about that life. We come along acting crazy.
Yeah.
We got to go. This podcast is too.
We definitely got to do a part 2.
This podcast is loaded.
Absolutely.
I'm not mad though. I just want to say for the record, sometimes people accuse me of being mad because of my tone. I'm just.
You're the angry black man.
Yeah, that's a whole other subject in there. That's our culture. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way.
Passion.
Passionate. Well, we black.
It's part of it.
That's part of it. We don't have to be Rogers. Remember Mr. Rogers?
Absolutely.
Would you be my neighbor? I'm not saying all white people talk that way, by the way.
I'm not that old, though. I don't.
Oh, whatever. I'm educated. I'm not that old. Let me say, here's your final word for this. No. Here's your final word for this podcast. You don't have to know everything. I'm going to bless you. You don't have to know everything, but you should be aware of everything. Oh, bye.